Greetings. This is Paul the Poke from PaulthePoke.com, and I'd like to welcome everyone to 2023 and this week in prophecy. So we are looking at a map of downtown Jerusalem. Specifically, we are looking at the Temple Mount area. That's actually the Golden Dome, and there's the mosque down there to the south. And we're going to be talking about the city of David, and specifically the Pool of Siloam. That's in the news. This is pretty exciting stuff. So this would be south of what is the modern day Temple Mount area we're talking about. And this is out of Fox News. Biblical site where Jesus healed blind man, excavated for public view. And of course, they say it affirms scripture. And that's an interesting thing, because some people see these things and they think, oh, it's just a little book of stories and these aren't real places. Well, they keep digging over there, especially south of the modern day Temple Mount, and they keep finding all sorts of things. It wasn't too long ago they found the temple tax coin, the half shekel. And again, that was also south of the modern day Temple Mount, in about the same area, in and around south of the modern day Temple Mount. So this is going to be exciting because they're going to open this up. And again, we keep saying this over and over, for the first time in 2,000 years. They're going to continue to dig and excavate in and around what is the Pool of Siloam, and they're going to open it up to the public. And this is from Pastor John Hagee out of San Antonio. The Pool of Siloam's excavation is highly significant to Christians around the world. Christians United for Israel. It was the site that Jesus healed the blind man, John 9. We're going to take a look at that here in a little bit. And it is the site that 2,000 years ago, Jewish pilgrims cleansed themselves prior to entering the second temple. Pool of Siloam and the Pilgrimage Road, both located within the city of David, are among the inspiring archaeological affirmations of the Bible. So I'm going to jump back here to the map again, and that's this area coming down through here. There's the modern day road. But if you look at this coming down this, some think I would be in this camp, and I understand what I'm about to say is very controversial. Some think that the city of David, and this up here of what is the quote modern day Temple Mount, is the Fortress Antonia. That's where the Roman guards, that's where they were located. And some people think that the city of David and the ancient temple were south of what is the modern day Temple Mount. I'm in that camp. I'm going to have tons of people disagree with me, and that's fine. It's all going to get straightened out at some point in the future when Jesus comes back, and he'll put it where it needs to be. But for now, they keep excavating this area south of the modern day Temple Mount in the city of David, and they keep finding things. Now, the thing that's interesting, this is also in the Silwan neighborhood. This is a Palestinian neighborhood. And as history would have it, you have Palestinians living on top of what is all kinds of, was built on trash. Trash was built up, and that's what they're living on now over time. And the deeper they dig, the more of these things they find. Interesting times, fascinating times. And the thing that is, none of this would have mattered. Where is it? Let's find this down here. A stroke of luck revealed the pool in 2004. So, we go back about 20 years ago. They didn't even know this thing was down here when infrastructure work carried out by the Hagahon Water Company uncovered some of the pool's steps. The Israel Antiquities Authority launched a survey. As a result, the northern perimeter, as well as a small section of the eastern perimeter of the Pool of Siloam, were uncovered. So 20 years ago, nobody knew this was still there. And so everybody's like, oh, it's just a little story. These places aren't real. So says the critic. They believe The Pool of Siloam passed through many stages of construction and reached the size of about 1.25 acres. So look at your typical neighborhood in America. Roughly, loosely, lot sizes are 1/4 to 1/3 of an acre. So take 5 or 6 houses on a block or around a city block. And if you were to put 5 to 6 houses and their lots together, that would be about the size of this pool. Just to give you a rough, loose idea, pool was built roughly 2,700 years ago as part of Jerusalem's water system in the 8th century BC. You can look this up as well, during the reign of King Hezekiah, and that's in Second Book of Kings 2020. Still there, city of David. So, I mean, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that the Pool of Siloam, and in the Old Testament and in the New Testament, is a real place. And we have archaeological evidence of it being a real place. The vast majority of the pool is currently being excavated and will either be open piecemeal or once the entire site is unearthed. And they've been doing this again for going on 20 years, kind of slowly excavating these things. Some in Orenstein, I don't have his full name. I know it's up further in the article. Despite ongoing efforts at the United Nations and Palestinian leadership to erase Jerusalem's heritage, in a few years' time, the millions of people visiting the city of David annually will literally be able to walk in the footsteps of the Bible, connecting with the roots of their heritage and identity. Zeev Orenstein, he's the director of international affairs for the city of David. And again, some people think the city of David is ancient Jerusalem. Look into that, make your own decisions, come to your own conclusions, do your own research. I'm of that camp, for whatever that matters. And there was one quote. Small section, despite, where is it? At any rate, yeah, here it is. This news means that one of the most important archaeological discoveries in history can soon be seen by visitors from all over the world. It will affirm all they believe. Having faith is part of worshiping God, but faith alone, I disagree with this, isn't required to believe. Well, that's true. Okay, I see his point. There are historic facts attesting to the truth of Scripture. And that's the thing about the Bible. The more of these things they find, it lines up with the biblical narrative. And for some people, they don't need the quote historic facts. They believe it. And for those who question it, and that's the thing too, the critic who hears people who just believe something on blind faith, they see it as weakness. But these are historic facts attesting to the truth of Scripture. And it's a historic event. Theologically, it affirms Scripture. Geographically, it affirms history. And politically, it affirms Israel's unquestionable and unrivaled link to Jerusalem. Some discoveries are theoretical. This one is undeniable. It is proof of the story of the Bible and of its people, Israel. I mean, there it is. Something to think about. Chew on it. I know there are plenty of critics who listen to this, what I'm putting out, and they think it's hogwash, and that's fine. Here's some more facts. Y'all love science. Well, here's some science. They've dug it up. They found it. What are you going to do with it? You got some facts right in front of your face. Challenge you. John 9. Now, as Jesus passed by, he saw a man who was blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, saying, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him. I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. The night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And when he said these things, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and he said to him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which is translated sent. So he went and washed and came back seeing. And we'll scroll down a little bit further, and the blind man answers, in verse 11, people were like, Hey, how'd you get to see? How are your eyes open? And he answered and said, A man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and said to me, Go to the pool of Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and I received sight. So the Bible points out an actual place called the Pool of Siloam. So challenging all you folks, all you critics out there, you want your facts. Give me some facts. Give me some facts. Well, you got some facts. I would encourage you folks to go take a good hard look at some of the archaeological evidence coming out of Jerusalem. This article even gives you a few sites here. Click on these little blue stories. Ancient gate from the time of King David discovered in Israel. Church of the Apostles discovered near the Sea of Galilee, archaeologists say. Jesus faced uncovered at ancient church in the Israeli desert. I mean, they're all over the place, and there are tons of these things. And in fact, I could do that, frankly. I could do one of these stories 1 to 3 times a week on the archaeological evidence coming out of Israel. With that, let's transfer to the new Israeli government under the leadership of Benjamin Netanyahu. And we're going to talk about a gentleman named Itamar Ben-Gvir. Scroll down. Let's get a picture of this guy. You're going to be seeing a lot of him. There he is right there. Put the cursor around him. And I love how the Jerusalem Post categorizes this guy. Israeli far-right lawmaker Itamar Ben-Gvir walks together with other Jews during a visit to the compound known to Muslims as Noble Sanctuary and to Jews as Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City. Okay. So he walked up there. That's all he did. He walked up there. He spent less than 15 minutes. And Muslims are freaking out. Only Muslims can pray there. He didn't pray there that I'm aware of. But this violates the status quo. And so with this, they had a big powwow at the UN to denounce walking up. So, a Jew walked on the Temple Mount. They're walking up there more and more in number every single day, every single year. And that's all he did. He just walked up there, walked around, spent less than 15 minutes, and the world's freaking out about it. And that's pretty much all the story amounts to. If you want to get into the guts of this story, I'll provide a link. Just a lot of posturing, a vote that doesn't really do anything other than create some drama. Israel says this was not a violation of the status quo. Palestinians, Muslims, yes, it was a violation of the status quo. Okay. Links provided if you want to look into it a little further. We'll go a little bit further. Well, let's just do this first. And so that's this area up here. This is where they're talking about, which I find this interesting. Google is now calling this the Temple Mount, up there where the gold dome is. There's the Dome of the Rock. And yet Google calls it the Temple Mount, which is kind of new. Here's the mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And here's the Western Wall where you see all the, where the Jews will pray right here. And you see them gathered. So this is this area. This is just north of where the Pool of Siloam is. And we will scroll out a little bit and we will go north to Lebanon. We got some action taking place in Lebanon politically. And this is the he said, she said. We get into different stories about what different people say. You can look how how all this is presented in the media. And this is from Iranian media. And this is about the Hezbollah, Hezbollah leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Now, Iranian state media says he's only got the flu. And this flu is going through his treatment process at some hospital in Lebanon. So the Iranians, and it tells you who's in charge in Lebanon. It's Hezbollah, which is a proxy of Iran. They're in charge, so they want to control the narrative. They want to put out their version of this story. He was supposed to give a speech last Friday, couldn't make it due to the flu. So that's the Iranian mouthpiece putting out their version of it. And then we have the Jerusalem Post. Hezbollah's Nasrallah suffers second stroke, hospitalized in Beirut. The Iranian press calls him the leader. The Jerusalem Post, a poster of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah in southern Lebanon. Well, I mean, the Jewish press has given this guy a bigger title than what the Iranian press is giving him. But, you know, again, Iran's in charge there. Realistically, they're running the show. Jerusalem Post is reporting he's rushed to intensive care after suffering a stroke, according to reports from Lebanon and Saudi Arabia. Again, he canceled a planned speech on Friday. They agree with that. The Jerusalem Post names the Saudi journalist. He was hospitalized at the Great Prophet Hospital in Beirut. There you have it. There's a tweet. I don't read Arabic. I don't know what that says. I'm sure there's a translator somewhere. Also set to speak on Tuesday to mark the anniversary of the assassination of the Iranian Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani. So this is a developing story. So this happened January 1st, and I've looked up, and you can find nothing about this. I mean, this has gone absolutely silent now for going on about a week and a half, which I find incredibly curious. So keep our eyes on that. Won't be surprised if, you know, we get some notification here in a day or two that something's happened or he's passed or who knows what. But one thing we need to be careful of, and this is just continues to happen over and over in this part of the world. You know, everybody thinks, oh, if we could just get rid of this guy, things would get better. Well, the problem is when one of these guys is removed and somebody takes his place, in the recent history, the guy that takes his place is more radical than what left. So caution, be careful what you ask for with these types of things. In our last story, we're going to scan out and we're going to go over to Egypt, Cairo. We're going to also, let's get up here big enough because the result of what's happening in Egypt is a direct result of what's happening in Ukraine with the war. And that war between Russia and Ukraine is approaching a year now. It'll be a year in February. And this is from Middle East Eye. The Egyptian pound dropped to a new low after experiencing its biggest one-day fall since October. This comes 2 months after the country agreed to a $3 billion financial package with the International Monetary Fund. You know, and this is one of the things we have talked about, you know, repeatedly since this war. Uh, you know, eventually countries in North Africa, they need to import their grains for food from Ukraine. And we talked about it from the onset. If this thing continues to go, we're talking about the war between Russia and Ukraine. You know, we've now had two. We are in the process of having a second harvest season being affected by the war. The first one, the first season, getting food out of there and harvesting the food was an issue. And then planting the second crop has been an issue because there are mines in the fields and, you know, tractors are getting blown up and it hasn't been easy. And then you've had all the issues taking place in the ports, exporting the grains. Who's doing that? Who's benefiting from it? And, so all the things we talked about, they're starting to come to pass. It's not reported in our Western press. And don't kid yourself, just because it's not being reported doesn't mean it's not happening. Um, in the Middle East Eye put together, a little 1-minute video as to what's actually taking place in Egypt with this. Um, and it would appear there have been some mistakes made by the Egyptian government in managing the currency. Um, but you're seeing the results of it. Egypt, world's biggest importer, black market dealers in the country were reported to be selling hard currency, 30 pounds to the U.S. dollar, January 5. Uh, took a plunge. Here we go. Starting it over, and it continues to slide. So, you know, and again, am I saying this is the setup, or is this the beginning of Revelation 6 and hyperinflation? No, I'm not. But the setup for that continues to be in place, and the countries in and around Israel continue to experience hyperinflation. Egypt, now add Egypt to this same set of countries, they're starting to have more inflation, and it's slowly spreading. And we'll see what happens, as they continue to fight in Russia and Ukraine, and we'll continue to watch it. Also, in closing, Checkmate and I are trying to get together for another Watchman. He has some stuff he's put together. We're going to be talking about Iran. Also, going to be taking a look at the Vatican and some of the things taking place with, the two popes, one who just passed and Pope Francis. Um, he has some interesting things he's been looking into. And I'm probably going to talk a little bit about the Russia Ukraine war and also what's taking place in Brazil. So, appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Again, welcome to 2023. And, starting from about 2020, each year has become increasingly more interesting and makes you wonder what's in store for us here in 2023. So, appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. We'll be in touch and look forward to communicating and posting and following up on tweets and posts and comments and so forth. And appreciate everybody who participates. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.